We are back again to this new episode of Code Researcher. My name is Sechufiano Seto, your favorite software engineer, and I will be taking you through some basic but important widgets in Flutter. So stick around, don't quit, don't skip. Watch from the start to the finish and learn something new. By the way, this is a growing channel, so I plead with you to not just watch the video, but like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. All right, let's get to work. So, as you can see, our app is running. I have my scaffold, my center, and then the text. All right, and then on the screen here, you can also see from the app that we have the text in the center of the screen, which is like, comment, share, and then subscribe. All right. And then in this episode, because we are learning or we are trying to understand the Flutter container widget, I will take this away and then we'll call on the container widget. All right, so let's rerun and see what we got. Yeah, so by default, this is what you see with no text on the screen. The container widget has a transparent or white background. It's just a raw container that has nothing attached to it. So the first thing we do is to give it a width. All right, so we'll give it a width of 160 and then we'll give it a height of 160. All right, and then if we rerun this, we still get nothing because we haven't given our container a color. All right, so let's give it a color of blue, and this is what we got. Yeah, so I'm just gonna increase the width and then the size as well so that it will look more bigger. All right, so I'm gonna add 80 to this 160, so we are gonna get, I think, 240. Yeah, all right, so let's see what we got. Then we have this. Okay, let me add another 40 to make it 280. Yeah, so this is how our container looks like. Now the container has a lot of features or a lot of properties that we can actually edit or manipulate to give it a very nice look. So we'll first start from the most important one, which is the decoration property, right? And this decoration property takes the box decoration value, and then inside this box decoration we now do any other decorations that we want to do to this container except the height and width, meaning whatever thing we want to do to the container, if we want to give it a color, a border radius, whatever we want to do, must now be placed in the box decoration property. All right, if we leave them here, the app is going to give us an error. So let's try that. So let's assign the color inside the container itself and out of the box decoration and see what error we are going to get. Yeah, so as you can see from the app, it says what cannot provide both a color and a decoration. To provide both, use decoration, box decoration, color, and then the color. So that's what it's giving us. So as soon as you bring box decoration, your colors and any other decorations must appear inside of this box decoration value. All right, so now the first thing we want to explore is a border radius. On most applications, you see a lot of border radiuses because it just makes the container or the app looks nice and modern. So border radius, and then border radius the circular, and then we'll give it 16. All right, so let's give it 16 and see what we have. A very nice border radius. We can change this 16 to 24. We can increase it as to how much radius we want to give to the borders of the container. So this is what we have, border radius. All right, we can also, if you want the box, right, in case you have your container, and then you want it to appear as a circle. All right, we have the shape property, which you can use box shape dot. By default it's a rectangle, but you can make it circle, and then your box naturally becomes a circle. As you can see, this is what we have now. Okay, so let's go back to the border radius. All right, because there is a whole lot we can do. We can actually change the border radius of this box as to how we want it to be, right? So let me first keep it at 0. So we want to change both corners, all right, the top left, the top right, the bottom left, the bottom right corners of the border radius to different radiuses. All right, we'll give them different sizes, and then we'll see how it looks like. So when you call the border radius, you select only, and then inside of the only, you can specify the top left corner. All right, so we can make this circular. All right, for now let me keep it at 0. So that, okay, let's just do it and see the differences as we do everything. All right, so we are going to give the top left corner 16.0 px. As you can see, it has appeared there. We can make it 32 so that it will be bigger for you to see. Yeah, as you can see. And then we can have the top right corner as well. Let's give it 32. All right, so that is the top right corner. You see how beautiful the box is now looking? Yeah, our container is now looking very sweet. Now we can have the bottom left corner. All right, and we can give it anything of our choice, right? So let's give it 64 and see what we got. All right, and then we can do similar thing for the bottom right. Okay, and then 64. Mostly this becomes very important when you are designing a message box. All right, when you are designing a message box, you can use something of this type to actually design it. You can see, right? Yeah, so that is how much manipulation we can do to a container in Flutter. All right, we can decide to make this, to take the top left out and have it appear this way. You can design the borders anyhow you want it to look like. That is one brilliant feature or one brilliant property of the box, the border radius in the container widget. All right, so we can just go back to circular and keep it at 32. All right, so we keep it at 32. I think that's too much. Let's go back to 16. All right, okay, so the next thing to explore is the box shadow. All right, the next thing to explore is the box shadow. We want to give our box or our container a shadow. We want it to have some just background shadow to make it look good. All right, we don't want it to appear so stuck on the screen. So we can call box shadow, and then this box shadow property take a list of shadows, right, of box shadows. So we are just going to deal with only one, which is box shadow. And then in this box shadow, we have a few properties to deal with, but the most important ones are the color, the offset, and then the border radius, the spread radius. All right, so we are going to have color. I'll use black. So let's see what we have. That is how it looks like. Nothing shows because we have to set an offset to kind of take it to make the shadow appear. All right, right now the shadow is in line with the container, so we have to either push it down or sideways, anyhow we want to manipulate it. So we use offset, and then in the DX we don't want it to move left or right, we just want it to move upwards or downwards. So we leave the DX and then we focus on this. All right, so let's see what we have. Yeah, as you can see, so let me make this 8.0. Yeah, so now that is our shadow, and it's looking very thick black color. So the next thing we do is to make the spread, right? The spread radius. How do we want the shadow to spread? How much do we want it to spread? So let me first take 8.0 and let's see. Oh, that's a lot. So let's take this off and rather use the blur radius. All right, yeah, the blur radius, that's what we're supposed to use. Yeah, so this is what we have when we use the blur radius. This is what we use when we have the blur radius, and then from there we can now make this black. We can now reduce the opacity, right? So we use with values.alpha and then 0.5. all right, so this is what we would have now. As you can see, our container now has a shadow under it. Okay, if we want to make it very light, we can keep it 0.3. Then we are going to have a very light shadow. That's very nice. So the next beautiful thing about the box is the gradient color. All right, instead of using a solid color to design it, you can move to a gradient color. All right, so let's take this color off, and then instead of the solid color, we can now use gradients. And then with a gradient, we have three types of it. We have the linear gradient, the radial gradient, and then the sweep gradient. But we are going to focus on the linear gradient. I would love for you to check out the rest after this tutorial. All right, so the gradient takes a list of colors, and then inside of these colors you specify the type of colors that you want to use for your gradient. So first I want to use red. All right, if we rerun, we are not going to see any color, yeah, because that's the first color. And then I want to use yellow. So now let's rerun, and then we can see our red and yellow color now. You can use more colors, not just two. You can use up to whatever number of colors you want to use, but I will stick to this because it's looking good. So that is how you set the gradient background for your box. And apart from that, it also have another feature where you can decide where the gradient starts from, whether it starts from the top left and end at the bottom. You can do all that. So let's just check them out. So let's start from alignment. Align, right? Yeah, so we have begin. All right, and then we can say top center. Okay, so now the red is going to begin from the top center, as you can see in the app. And then we can now say the yellow should appear at the bottom, right? So we are going to have them align horizontally. Okay, so it starts from the top center and ends at the bottom center, like this. So this is what we get now. All right, so that is how you manipulate the gradient colors in your container widget, right? This is some of the beautiful things you can do with a container widget. And then one very important part, or one very important property of the container widget is the child widget. Where are we? All right, is a child widget. All right, now this child widget can now take all types of widgets that you want to appear in this container. So we are going to take text. All right, then we'll go back to our old text, like, share, comment, and subscribe. All right, so let's rerun, we'll have it appear at the top right corner of the screen. So we want it to appear in the center of the container. Guess what? We just wrap this around our center widget. All right, so we call our center widget, and then we call the child widget, and this should now let our text appear in the center of the container. So that's all for this episode. I hope you now understand the container widget in Flutter and how you can manipulate it to have very beautiful designs like this. Congratulations for watching the episode to the end. I hope you've learned something new, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in the next episode. I am bringing you nothing but the best of the best and the things that you will not see on the internet but on only this channel. So subscribe, like, comment, and share with your friends, and I look forward to meeting you in the next episode. See ya. Bye bye.